For more on the Ukraine-Russia war, let's welcome the Foundation for Defense of Democracies founder and president and personal friend of many years, one of the smartest guys I know, Cliff May. Cliff, great to have you here.
Great to see you.
Hope you had a great Thanksgiving.
I did.
Boy, the news doesn't take a break. And we've got several hot fronts, as they say. But let's start, Cliff, with this Zelensky maybe suggesting, because he has been steadfast, I interviewed him back in July, he's been steadfast on not yielding any territory, recognizing any territory Russians gained. What do you make of this latest development?
Look, he doesn't want to yield territory, of course. He understands Trump's coming in. He understands Trump's a deal maker. What does a deal look like? A deal looks like, I think, Ukraine keeps its independence but loses some territory. By the way, there was a war that Russia fought against Finland in 1939 called the Winter War. Again, same kind of thing. The Finns were outnumbered, outgunned, but they did a great job. How did it end? Finland lost 10% of its territory, but retained its independence. You could have something like this. Putin only wants an off-ramp if the road ahead of him is bumpy. And everything can be done to make that bumpy, so he says, okay, I will settle for Crimea. I will settle for some of Donbass, but I need to freeze this in place. After it's frozen in place, if that's what happens, then you got to supply a lot of arms to Ukraine so they can deter Russia from a third invasion. That's
great insight. But on the flip side of that, Zelensky also needs a major, at least PR win in all of this so that his fellow countrymen and women can feel like they got something out of it in addition to just ending the war.
If their independence is preserved, they've gotten something out of it. It's not everything they would have wanted. It's not everything they deserve. But don't forget and I've been saying this for years, Putin sees himself as the Tsar. And what does the Tsar try to do in bad times? Restore the Russian Empire. What does restore the Russian Empire mean? And Ukraine has to be ruled by the Kremlin. If the Ukraine is not ruled by the Kremlin, it's not a full win for Putin by any means. And from a U.S. point of view, if Ukraine remains independent, that helps protect Poland. It helps protect Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, NATO, all of those countries, even Moldova, which is not NATO, all of that, in the American interest, it might be best at this point to freeze the conflict, make sure Ukraine retains its independence, and then make it a porcupine hard for a predator to eat.
Let's shift to this very delicate, it appears, ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. We're already seeing it being challenged. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo had this to say about it.
This ceasefire in the north is a Biden administration's last-ditch attempt to say, see, look, we did something. We solved a problem, frankly, a problem that they created the conditions for, sort of like the arsonist putting the fire out. But make no mistake about it, the conditions haven't changed. The Iranians are still trying to destroy Israel and the United States of America.
Cliff, your thoughts?
He's not wrong. On the other hand, I would say, and look, the ceasefire is very controversial within Israel. The Israelis are arguing among themselves. They tend to do that anyhow. However, I would say it's the best deal Israel could get, not the best deal it could get from Hezbollah, the best deal it could get from Biden. Why? Among other things, because Israel needs the replenishment of munitions to continue the seven-front war that's going on. Those were being held up. Now, I think that they're in train again. So that's very important. They don't want Biden to do what Obama did on his way out the door when he had, in his lame duck period, stab Israel in the back at the UN Security Council. If that's been prevented, that's pretty good for Israel. I think the Israelis absolutely know they cannot leave it to the Lebanese armed forces or to UNIFIL to make sure that violations are addressed. They won't be. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, will have to do that, and they will do that. And I think they would rather ask for forgiveness than permission to do that. And once Trump comes in, I don't think Trump will mind if the Israelis take out an arms depot or a launcher.
We've seen them sort of taking that stance. Very interesting. We'll be following that. Lastly, as we're just reporting today, Aleppo, the fight in Syria, Syrian opposition, rebels going after Bashar Assad in the capital city.
Yeah, tricky situation. Okay, Bashar al-Assad, dictator of Syria, terrible guy, has killed like 600,000 of his people, made 6 million or so homeless, terrible guy. It seemed that he had won the civil war thanks to Tehran, thanks to the Russians, thanks to Hezbollah. All are weakened, which may be why the rebels have been able to take Aleppo. But these rebels are not great rebels. These are Salafi jihadists backed by Erdogan in Turkey. So what's happened now? Bashar al-Assad, we believe, has gone up and asked Putin, please, I need more help, I need more help. And Putin, as you know, is stretched a little thin right now. Hezbollah can't do very much. Not clear that the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, can do very much right now. But that's what Assad is asking for. It's a very volatile situation. It reminds me of something Kissinger once said. Wouldn't it be nice, or something like this, he said, wouldn't it be nice if both sides could lose? And actually, both sides could possibly lose here with a little assistance from a clever United States.
It's really quite something when someone like you can put into context how it's all intertwined between Hezbollah saving Assad and really Putin behind the curtain. A lot to pack in and a lot to watch. Cliff May, thank you for being here as always. Have a great weekend.
Great pleasure to be with you, Griff.